Welcome back to another FPL video. In this video, I'm going to focus on double game week 33 and how we can take advantage of the fixtures. So I'm going to talk about my team selection, my transfer plans, the watch list, and the captain selection for the next game week. In double game week 32, Ramsdale is so far the highest point scorer. Kind of surprising, no one guessed that, but who do you think will be the highest point scorer in double game week 33? Let me know in the comments down below, but for now, let's start the video. So game week 33 is getting close. We know that there will be 4 teams with a double game week: Aston Villa, Man City, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace. So far, I have 7 double game week players, a triple up from Crystal Palace and 2 from Arsenal and 2 from Man City. I will probably transfer in a couple of more double game week players, and this will probably force me into playing my free hit in game week 34, but more about this later. So the team looks good on paper. Raya in goal. I have Guardiola, Trippier, Munoz. Not sure if I'll keep Trippier, but talk more about that in the transfer section. In midfield, Saka, Murphy, Esse, and Jared Bowen. Bowen with a single fixture, but can't get any better than playing against Southampton, so Jared Bowen will probably stay. Alexander Isak, Mateta, and Marmoush up front, and the bench is kind of strong as well this game week, but is it strong enough for a bench boost? I'll discuss this later as well. Areola against Southampton, Neto against Fulham, Williams against Spurs, and Anderson against Chelsea. I will probably take a hit ahead of double game week 33, as mentioned, to bring in a couple of more double game week players. Before talking about transfers ahead of double game week 33, I just want to show you a quick update on double game week 36 and blank game week 37. So the FA Cup semi-finals are ready. Nottingham Forest will play against Man City and Crystal Palace will play against Aston Villa. All the fixtures on the left-hand side marked with green are fixtures that will go ahead, while Crystal Palace, Wolves, and Man City, Bournemouth could be postponed and played in double game week 36. So the final is on the 17th of May, so in blank game week 37, so we know that there will be 2 games, 4 teams that will blank this game week. So let's take an example. If Man City beat Nottingham Forest, their game against Bournemouth will be postponed, and if Crystal Palace beats Aston Villa, then Crystal Palace against Wolves will be postponed. This means that the game will be moved ahead and played in double game week 36. This means that Man City will play against Southampton and Bournemouth. Crystal Palace will then play against Spurs and Wolves, while Wolves will have a game against Brighton and then against Crystal Palace, and Bournemouth will play against Aston Villa and Man City. Pretty decent game week for Man City, and if I had Erling Haaland and if he was fit, I would probably save my triple captainship, but my triple captainship was played in double game week 32 on Alexander Isak. Results from double game week 32 is not ready, and Newcastle have actually not played their game against Man United yet when this is recorded, so fingers crossed, and hopefully Alexander Isak can deliver. But let's take a look at potential transfers and the watch list ahead of double game week 33. If you want to take advantage of double game week 33, I think that Crystal Palace, Arsenal, and Man City are the best bets. Aston Villa, they have a double as well. Actually done pretty well recently considering their defensive form, but I think that those players can provide both attacking and defensive returns. So Munoz, popular in the FPL community, had a double game week 32 as well. I still think that he potentially can do well in double game week 33. Saliba is Arsenal's main threat at set pieces at the moment. We know that Kai Havertz and Gabriel is out, so Saliba is their main threat, especially on corners. Guardiola, not that attacking recently as we saw at the end of last season and at the beginning of this season, but I still think that he is the safest bet considering all the rotation in the Man City squad. So Guardiola, games against Everton and Aston Villa, I think that game week 33 potentially can be a good game week for Guardiola. In midfield, I think Eze is a decent shout on most set pieces. We saw Mateta, he was subbed at halftime in game week 32. And I think Eze is on penalties while Mateta is not on the pitch. Asensio missed 2 penalties in double game week 32. Bit unlucky for his owners, but even though if he still keeps penalties or not, I think that he is a great shout. He can score from open play as well, and only selected by around 5% of the managers. Savinho, he was rested in double game week 32, so I think that he probably will start both games in double game week 33. So if you need a differential from Man City and if you can't afford Kevin De Bruyne, I think Savinho is a decent option as well. So forwards with 2 fixtures in double game week 33. Mateta, he was subbed off early against Man City. Glasner said it was tactical, so I'd wait for some more updates on Mateta before transferring him in. Tough fixtures for Aston Villa, but I think that Watkins is worth a punt, especially if you have Alexander Isak, and most of us already own him. So if you want to take a punt and if you need to take some risks, then selling Alexander Isak to bring in Watkins is probably worth a punt. I'll talk more about this in the transfer section. Marmoush, he looked really good, should maybe have got more points in double game week 32, especially in that game first half against Crystal Palace. He should have had a couple of more attacking returns. So if you want to triple up on Man City or get another Man City player ahead of their decent double game week 33, I think Marmoush is a good option. One of my potential transfers ahead of double game week 33 is potentially to sell Anderson to bring in Saliba. Anderson, really good fixture in game week 34, but if I do this move, I'll probably free hit in game week 34. I actually picked Anderson in game week 28 when I played my wildcard because of this fixture, but I will probably just play my free hit and take a punt on bringing in as many double game week players as I can. The problem with double game week players is that, of course, the ones that have 2 fixtures in game week 33 will also blank in game week 34. So I will probably just load up on double game week players and play my free hit. So then Saliba is a good option at the moment. I mentioned that he is the main threat at set pieces for Arsenal at the moment. So Saliba will probably be in my double game week 33 team. Murphy to Kevin De Bruyne. I actually brought Murphy in ahead of double game week 32, wanted to take advantage of Newcastle's decent fixtures in double game week 32, but I really like Kevin De Bruyne in game week 33, so I will probably sell Murphy to bring in Kevin De Bruyne. Looked really good against Crystal Palace. I think that he will have a strong end to the season, so selling Jacob Murphy to bring in Kevin De Bruyne, if you can afford it, I think that's a really good option at the moment. As mentioned when I'm going through the watch list, selling Alexander Isak to bring in Watkins, I think that we need to take some drastic choices at the end of the season. So if you're not satisfied with your rank or your position in your mini leagues, we need to differentiate and have other players. So selling Alexander Isak, he's owned by over 60% of the managers. To bring in Watkins could be a decent move. We know that Aston Villa will have 2 fixtures in game week 33. They have a blank, but I will probably play my free hit chip in blank game week 34. Actually, I might bring Alexander Isak back in on my free hits. We know that Newcastle have a decent fixture against Ipswich in the blank game week 34, but my transfer ahead of double game week 33 will probably be to sell Alexander Isak and take a punt on Watkins. Mateta could be a decent captain option in double game week 33. As mentioned, we have to wait on more updates from Glasner. He was subbed off early against Man City, but they play twice in double game week 33, and especially the fixture against Bournemouth looks appealing. So Bournemouth, they have kept 0 clean sheets, conceded 8 goals, 7 big chances conceded, and 13 shots on target. Bournemouth, they have an expected goals conceded of 4.22 in the last 4 game weeks. So when we compare this to Arsenal's numbers, we can see that Arsenal as always, are pretty solid defensively. They have kept 1 clean sheet, only conceded 3 goals, 5 big chances, 9 shots on target, and an expected goals conceded of 2.68. So not the best fixtures for Crystal Palace. You could argue that the game against Bournemouth could be good, but playing away against Arsenal are not considered to be a good fixture in FPL. So Mateta, we know Crystal Palace, they can score against anyone, and if Mateta can find form in the next week, we know that he is on penalties, so Mateta is always to be considered as a captain when Crystal Palace have a double game week. But I'm not really convinced by Mateta, so we'll have a look at some other options as well. Marmoush and Manchester City, a double game week for them as well, as mentioned. And Marmoush, when Haaland is injured, I think that he is nailed on, potentially on penalties for Man City as well. When we take a look at the fixtures, they look really, really good on paper, playing against Everton and Aston Villa at home. But when we consider their defensive stats, those two teams actually haven't been that bad recently. Everton have kept 1 clean sheet, while Aston Villa actually have kept 3 clean sheets. Everton only conceded 3 goals, Aston Villa 1 goal. 17-12 when we take a look at big chances conceded, shots on target, only 3 for Everton, and only actually 1 shot on target conceded in the last 4 game weeks for Aston Villa. So that's pretty impressive. When we take a look at expected goals, Everton 4.61 and Aston Villa 3.52. So we saw this with Man City in game week 32. Crystal Palace, they actually had pretty decent stats ahead of that fixture. So Man City, when they find form, they can break down any defense in the Premier League. So Marmoush, decent captain option, but I have to take a look at one last option as well. Saka benched in game week 31, benched in game week 32. Hopefully game week 33 will be the game week where Saka is ready to start games again. So they have by far the best fixtures when we consider defensive stats, playing against Ipswich and Crystal Palace. As mentioned, Crystal Palace, they had decent defensive stats recently, but that game against Man City really broke their stats completely. So we know that Crystal Palace can be vulnerable, and we know this about Ipswich as well. So Ipswich have kept 0 clean sheets, 8 goals conceded, 14 big chances, 22 shots on target, and they actually have an expected goals conceded of 9.36 in their last 4 games. So Ipswich, one of the worst defensive teams recently. Crystal Palace, we know that they have played well recently, but in game week 32 they got a beating from Man City. So they have kept 1 clean sheet, 7 goals conceded, 19 big chances, 22 same as Ipswich, and Crystal Palace actually have an expected goals conceded of 6.97. So Arsenal and Saka by far the best fixtures when we consider the double game week teams. So Mateta, decent on penalties for Crystal Palace. Marmoush, decent as well, and potentially on penalties for Man City. But Saka, if he can get 2 starts in double game week 33, he will definitely be one to consider for the captaincy. Saka is currently my captain. Let me know in the comment section down below who is your captain for double game week 33.